Okay. Pre-show has started.
Got anything you want to say to the people?
Just bear with us. We'll be starting the show pretty soon.
Okay. Twitch has accepted the stream. YouTube has accepted the stream. Facebook. Now you want me to
put it on my Facebook page.
Put it on your Facebook page.
Virginia Ginger Kerwin McIntyre.
It is on your page.
Thank you, Richard.
Okay, so when the screen says on the air, you are on the air, okay?
Okay. Welcome to Illuminating Forward, the podcast. I'm Reverend Virginia McIntyre, and I want to thank the great Richard Wicca, our producer and director here at Think Twice Radio, home of the future, for having us on the air tonight with Illuminating Forward, the podcast. And I want you to also know that you can find me on my webpage, virginiamcintyre.com. You can sign up for my newsletter, which is welcoming people into my sacred community, and you can get strategies, tips, reflections, and inspirations coming out every week right into your inbox. So that's just something to give a little tidbit of information. But tonight we're going to talk about the various, and I think we're up to 12 or more, probably more, of wisdom tradition celebrations that are celebrated this holiday season. And I got my notes and I got my books to keep me going, because I have a tendency of getting sidetracked and I go down rabbit holes, so I want to stay on topic. But I also want to say that I hope that my guest tonight is feeling better. The medium, Teresa Johnson, is not feeling well tonight, so we might not go the whole hour because I can only talk so much about what I know. We're not having a discussion. We're having a lecture, but I can take comments through the show, and you can ask questions. You can write in your questions, and I will answer them. So, some holidays happening in November and December. Let's start with that first. Let's talk about November, December. But before we get into November, let's talk about October 31st and the Celtic tradition of Samhain. Now, some people think it's pronounced Samhain, Samhain, but it's a Celtic name, so it's pronounced Samhain. Okay, so let's talk about that. That is a pagan and Wiccan festival marking the end of the harvest season, considered the Wiccan New Year. And what has to do with that is that we have ghouls, goblins, and glowing jack-o'-lanterns have been synonymous with Halloween for a long time because we call it in contemporary society Halloween. But at Samhain, the circle of the year has come to its final spoke in the wheel. At this time, the harvest is finished, the dying god interred, and the goddess has descended to the underworld to be with her beloved. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that so interesting? Above, her people prepare for the veil between the worlds to thin. Dead ancestors will be visiting, and with the harvest tools put away, there's a new year to think about, resources to manage, goodbyes to say, and plans to make. Meanwhile, the now barren land gives way to the rulership of the crone. And I want you to know, the book I'm taking this from, okay, this is a series of books that I got from Alchemy of Spirits, from Jace, my good friend Jace, when he had his business out at the Eastern Hills Mall. And it's called, and there's different books. I have Samhain, let's see, and I also have Yule. And it's Llewellyn's Sabbat Essentials, Rituals, Recipes, and Lore for Halloween. That's what I just read from. Just so you know, I want to give credit where credit is due. So Halloween is not Samhain. It coincides with Samhain. And consequently, many pagans see Halloween as half of the whole celebration. This time of costumes, revelry, and social inversion grew from the same traditional roots. Samhain is serious and loving. Grandma might visit, while Halloween releases our restrained wildness. Many pagans revere both agricultural cycles and the process of nature. This dichotomy manifests in this sometimes two-sided celebration. Both the reverent and the silly have their place on October 31st. And so it was once, so how was Halloween invented? It was once a Celtic pagan tradition, and the holiday has evolved from there. The Wiccan celebration of summer solstice is a spiritual practice. Okay, so but so is Samhain. So what happens also on November 1st is All Saints' Day. Okay, also known as All Hallows' Day, is a day to honor all saints from Christian history, understanding that there is a spiritual connection between heaven and earth. And that's what, a lot of churches don't emphasize when they talk about All Saints' Day. They don't talk about the connection between the passed on and the living. And there is a spiritual connection between heaven and earth. And so when we talk about that, we also talk about, but Samhain and Halloween are the best known holidays at this time of year, October 31st through the first week of November. But there's a few more. Many are festivals of the dead or preparations for winter. So All Saints' Day, or also called All Souls' Day, happens on November 1st, as I said, or on the first Sunday of November, depending on the Christian denomination. So you might have the Episcopals celebrating it one day, the Presbyterians another, the Catholics another one. It was originally part of the Christian attempt to absorb Samhain and similar festivals of the dead. It became an observance intertwined with the pagan holidays that honor the dead. This day of holy obligation in the Catholic Church is a time to pray for all the dead and ask for the intercession of the dead that ascended to heaven. In the Catholic tradition, these prayers were necessary because of a belief that certain souls remained in purgatory, an afterlife halfway between heaven and hell, where souls might work out their issues before moving on. Catholic and Orthodox Christians observe these holidays with the most ceremony. Some denominations split the observations into two holidays, with November 1st as All Saints' Day and November 2nd is All Souls' Day. November 2nd is for the souls that might still have some sin to work off in purgatory. Whether or not these dead need the prayers of the living is a point of controversy among some Christians. So not all Christians believe this. So when I say Christian, I'm basically talking about Episcopalians. I'm talking about the Catholics. I'm talking about Presbyterians. I know that they believe in this too. But in Mexico, the holiday Dia de los Muertos on November 1st honors the dead with food, procession, and flowers. They actually go to the cemeteries, the Day of the Dead. The practice of honoring the dead has been part of Aztec life long before the conquistadors arrived. However, the arrival of the Catholic Church in Mexico meant subjection to a Catholic routine. Rather than ban the day, the Church overwrote its meaning with All Souls' Day and moved the date from roughly July or August to November 1st. This is a common practice in the Catholic Church worldwide, and which, depending on what area it went into, it would absorb that holiday. Okay? Instead of supplanting the Day of the Dead practices, this move by the Catholic Church sanctified the holiday for the people observing it and brought them happily to the Catholic religion. During the season, people build altars to their departed loved ones, make skulls out of wood and candy, clean and decorate graves, and hold picnics at the gravesite of dead loved ones. It's different from All Souls' Day in that those who observe it welcome the possibility of visitations in their homes from their ancestors. Isn't this interesting? This is really, compelling information. Now, in Slavic countries, they had what is called Autumn Dizzy, and that goes from October 31st to November 2nd, and they are also days of festivals of the dead. Those who practice Christianity go to cemeteries of their departed relatives on November 1 and light candles so their loved ones may find their way to heaven or to home. Either one. Those who practice old pagan traditions, or sometimes practice both the old pagan and the modern Christianity traditions, also host what the Scots and Irish called a dumb supper on November 2nd. The Slavs call this a dizzy. They set out a place at their dinner tables, complete with extra spoons, and the family speaks in whispers, telling stories of their departed loved ones. They believe that any manifestation of nature during the dinner, from a breeze to an insect, represents an ancestral visitation. Because the veil is thin during this time. They believe that too, as do the people who practice Samhain. These ancestor dinners are practiced 3 or 4 times a year with specific seasonal rituals related to each one. The Slavic people who will practice this live mainly in eastern Poland, Lithuania, and Belarus. Polish poet Adam Mickiewicz wrote a play about this folk practice, including scenes where villagers brought food and drink to abandoned houses and then counseled the dead according to folk wisdom instead of according to the dominant Christian mores. Interesting. It's very, very interesting. So we have in one part of the world in Mexico, and then we go all the way to the Slavic part of the world, and they're basically practicing the same faith tradition, but with just a little spin on it. Now, I find that fascinating. Now, Hope Tana, the Isle of Man, still celebrates Hope Tana, a sort of ancestor to modern Halloween and descendant of the original Samhain. Considered an observance of the Celtic New Year called O'Honey by the Mans on October 31st, children go door to door carrying lanterns carved of turnips and singing Hope Tana. Mummers sing traditional songs in Gaelic, such as one that translates to this old Hollantide night, the moon shines bright. In turn, the neighbors distribute coins in modern days for UNICEF, but sometimes even now for fireworks to set off sometime between October 31st and November 5th. Mischief Night, Gay Fawkes Day. Now we're going to move over to Great Britain, and we're still at October 31st. The Great Britain bonfires of October 31st eventually moved to November 5th. While some areas refer to this time as Mischief Night, the Catholic Church, Church of England, eventually called it Guy Fawkes Day, after a man named Guy Fawkes, go figure, who was arrested when discovered underneath the House of Parliament guarding explosive intended to blow up the building. Wow. On this day, younger people set off fireworks and ring bells, ostensibly for the health and safety of the Queen and Parliament, while burning effigies of Guy Fawkes. While meant as a warning against treason, the release of the movie V for Vendetta subverted the meaning of the Guy Fawkes mask into a symbol of just rebellion. Guy Fawkes Day replaced the original Mischief Night and for the most part replaced the traditional bonfires of Samhain Night in the United Kingdom. So now that brings us to our modern, Samhain festivals and gatherings. While not all modern pagans necessarily celebrate Samhain or celebrate Samhain on October 31st, they often find reasons to come together at the end of October and the beginning of November. Many pagan organizations choose to start and stop their annual calendar around this date. Often pagans consider the holiday season that encompasses Thanksgiving and Christmas to begin with Samhain, and that's why we began with Samhain tonight and Halloween. They have public rituals and they have witches' balls. I was a medium in the Psychic Lounge at the Witches' Ball in downtown Buffalo on October 25th. And witches' balls are a form of celebration for pagan communities throughout the United States. Witches' balls are held throughout the United States near Samhain, but not on it, so as not to conflict with private Samhain celebrations. These celebrations often include food, drink, dancing, music, and of course costumes, just like the Witches' Ball here in Buffalo that was at the Statler. It was a fabulous event. The costumes were like off the chart. They were really good, and they had a psychic lounge that was run by Mason Winfield, who was a guest on my show about a year ago. Oh, hi, Mick. How are you? Hi, Mick. I'm fine, Mick. How are you? I'm so glad that you're watching the show tonight. I'm so glad, my friend. So the Witches' Ball have happened in New Orleans, Denver, Detroit, and Salem. If you do not have one in your area, start one, the book says. But you know what? We have one here in Buffalo, and it's a great event. There's even a market where you can buy trinkets and different crafts that you can buy at the Witches' Ball. And at the Witches' Ball in Buffalo, they had a silent disco, a disco, and a live band. It was really something else. And we celebrate Samhain and Halloween with costume parties, haunted houses, but most of all, what do we have on October 31st? Trick-or-treating. This year in Buffalo was a little bit windy with the trick-or-treating, but we still have the children coming around. And what was once the poor going to wealthy houses and seeking soul cakes in exchange for prayers transformed in the new world to small children approaching their neighbors with the call, trick or treat. The neighbors get the entertainment of seeing cute children in small costumes. Yeah, I just love it. And those who are not parents often get to hand sugar to children they do not have to look after. The ritual called trick or treat is not the genuine threat it once was. It used to be that if a neighbor, likely citing religious objections, refused to provide a treat to the children wandering door to door, a trick indeed would follow. The history of threshold tricks, removing pickets from fences or taking doors off hinges, gave way to smashed jack-o'-lanterns, eggs thrown at houses, toilet paper in yards, and broad-ranging pranks that run the border between vandalism and performance art. Ordinances regulating the ages of trick-or-treaters vary from city to city, but often these do not help preserve the public fun in Halloween while minimizing the property damage. So instead of treats, they get candy. We hand out candy. So it's a wonderful thing. They also used to hand out small story scrolls, origami fortune cookies. Sometimes you get money. Miniature cootie catchers honor the Samhain tradition of divination with this middle school origami trick. Yeah, so that's what's going on. That's what's going on right now. You know, when we start, you know, the faith tradition have happening, and then the Day of the Dead, which I talked about, that goes on, and then we have. And we talked about All Souls Day, but on November 5th, we have Guru Nanak Dev Ji Jr.'s birthday, a day commemorating the birth of Guru Nanak Dev, who founded Sikhism. And that's a religion that you find around the world, but it doesn't have that many followers. It's not as popular as Christianity or anything like that. And then we have the Diwali festival, the full moon celebration known as the Diwali of the gods, takes place 15 days after Diwali. Dev Diwali commemorates the Hindu goddess Ganga Ma, the personification of the river Ganges. According to Hindu mythology, the gods descend to earth to bathe in the Ganges each year. Yeah, and so in 2022, they had a celebration at the White House, lighting lamps at the People's House, and that was a big deal. And November 24th is martyrdom of Guru Teg Bahadur Sahib. I'm killing that name. Martyred for his sacrifice to protect the rights of religious freedoms of Sikhs and non-Sikhs alike. The ninth Sikh Guru is commemorated on this day. And then on November 27th, we have Ascension of Abdul Baha. This sacred day commemorates the death of Baha leader Abdul Baha, who modeled key principles of the Baha faith throughout his life, serving as an example for the faith's followers. And that brings us to November 30th, which is St. Andrew's Day in the Catholic and Episcopal Church. It's a Christian feast day celebrating the life of St. Andrew, who is known as the first called of Jesus' 12 disciples. November 30th to December 24th. So now we're going to move into November 30th to December 24th. Advent originates from the Latin word adventus, meaning coming, a season observed by the Christian calendar as a time of waiting and preparation for the birth of Jesus, which in the birth of Jesus, of course, is celebrated on Christmas Day, as we all know, on December 25th. But before we move all the way into December, I want to talk about, even though it's not a faith tradition, but we do have Native American spirituality being practiced here in New York State, and it is Native American Heritage Month in the month of November. All right? So I just wanted to get that in before we get into all the things of November. Now, St. Nicholas Day is December 6th, the Christian holiday that commemorates St. Nicholas, the patron saint of children. Yes, December 6th is also Bodhi Day, the Buddhist holiday that commemorates the day that Gautama Buddha is said to have attained enlightenment, also known as the Bodhi in Sanskrit and Pali. Bodhi Day generally is observed quietly and may include meditation or chanting practices, prayer, Bodhi tree decorations, or simple tea and cookies. It's also known as the Feast of the Immaculate Conception, the day that Roman Catholics celebrate Mary's conception without original sin. Now, December 12th is Our Lady of Guadalupe, which is really a very interesting celebration. It's Our Lady of Guadalupe Feast Day, December 12th, commemorating this appearance of the Virgin Mary to Saint Juan Diego, an indigenous man in Mexico in 1531. The feast day is an important holiday in Mexico as well as for Mexican Americans to celebrate their religious and cultural identity. It's very important. Aztec dancers bless the statue of the Virgin of Guadalupe at the center in 2022. But not only Catholic churches celebrate the feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe. It is more than a religious icon to Mexican Catholics. Now, what's also happening in December is Hanukkah, which is a Jewish holiday. It's an 8-day celebration in the Jewish faith tradition that is the festival of lights, during which gifts are given, and each day a candle of the menorah is ritualistically, and it is very, very important. Hanukkah is a very, very important holiday. It typically falls in December. It doesn't necessarily have to be in December. It typically falls in December. And it commemorates the rededication of the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. It is celebrated for 8 days, as I said, with nightly menorah, candle lighting, songs, prayers, and fried foods like latkes and donuts. But what else is going on? We have Boxing Day. So what happens in Advent? We have a season of preparation for Christmas, as I said. And it's traditionally marked by lighting a new candle and an Advent wreath each week to represent concepts like hope, faith, joy, and peace that comes with the Christ child. And then you have nativity scenes. And they're miniature displays of the Christmas story, often featuring Mary, Joseph, Jesus, shepherds, and the Magi, are used to visualize the biblical narrative. And in many Catholic churches, you have a midnight mass, a special church service held on Christmas Eve to celebrate the birth of Jesus. It's a beautiful service, and I'm sure you'll agree if you've ever witnessed it or partaken in that service. And then we have Boxing Day. Well, we have Christmas, of course, on December 25th, which celebrates the birth of Jesus Christ. Boxing Day is celebrated on December 26th, the day after Christmas. In some tradition, it involves blessing horses and giving to the poor. An Orthodox Christmas celebrates Christmas on January 7th, following the Julian calendar. The period from January 7th to January 19th is known as Svatka, or Holy Days. And then we have, I want to talk about Three Kings Day. We have Three Kings Day. Three Kings Day usually happens on the Epiphany, which is 12 days after Christmas, and that's celebrated in mostly in Puerto Rican families. We have the Three Kings Day, and they come in the schools and they give gifts and whatever. And then we have Los Pasados, a Hispanic Christian celebration from December 16th to 24th, reenacting Mary and Joseph's search for a place to stay. It often includes children breaking a piñata filled with candy. And so these are all like really, really important days. But, another holiday that goes on, another tradition, which is very serious, is Yule. And Yule is a pre-Christian winter festival celebrated by Germanic peoples and observed by modern Wiccans and pagans from December 21st to January 1st, symbolizing the winter solstice. Now, this is like really important because what they have during Yule is like they have like the Yule log. They have the Yule log. They have different. They even sometimes have a tree. But winter solstice, midwinter, and Yule, the lexicon. Winter solstice is a term describing a specific astronomical alignment, which we'll get to in just a bit. Solstice means sun stands still, referring to the sun's low, slow, almost imperceptible movement at solstice time. As for midwinter, it is used as a synonym for the winter solstice. Yule, on the other hand, is typically linked to a number of religious celebrations and spiritual traditions. Yule descends from the Old English Yule and may refer to Christmas Day, Christmas Tide, or Old Norse Yule, meaning a heathen feast lasting 12 days, with possible links to Odin and the Wild Hunt. The Old Anglian Gule, recorded by Bede in 726 CE, referring to the name of December and January. The Ode also tells us that the word Yule has been widely used since the mid-1800s as an informal term for Christmas and the related festivities, while Good Yule has come to be an expression of a joy or excitement in terms of midwinter celebrations. Yule may be a sound variation of the word wheel, whether in terms of the turning of the seasons, the circular motion of the sun, or the wheels of Odin's chariot. In casual use, some believe that the word may be related to expressions of joy or jolly. The ancient Romans had their own words for Yuletime. 2. Dies Natalis Solis Invicti, the birthday of the unconquered sun. At one time, the Romans celebrated this time of year as the birth of their beloved Mithras, a solar god, closely linking this event with the solstice and the return of light. Around the 4th century, the Church of Rome began submitting the birth of the sun and the birth of the sun, intuiting the Christian Jesus as the one who would bring light and life to the world. Note that modern theologians agree that Jesus, regardless of the details of his life, was likely born during the springtime. However, midwinter was settled on as the time to honor his birth date, as the pagan people were already used to celebrating the return of light to the world, their lives being metaphorically reborn with each winter solstice. And so this helps us understand what Yule means. It's got different meanings for different people, but it's a season. And there's different traditions that go along with celebrating Yule. We have the Yule log. In the olden times, the Yule log was traditionally made of oak, although a log of ash was said to bring luck and insight. The carved log was festooned with greenery and anointed with ale, mead, and whiskey. The log was lit on Solstice Eve, ideally on the first try, and using a piece of the previous year's log as kindling. And if you have a fireplace, you can embrace this ritual of the Yule log. And the new year. The modern Gregorian calendar marks January 1st as the start of the new year, and today's calendar years follow this pattern. That was not always the case, though. An early predecessor of our modern calendar was the Roman calendar, which was in place from the founding of Rome to the dissolution of the Roman Empire in 476 CE. Several versions of the Roman calendar were created, making adjustments to the number and length of months and to various cycles of the days. In the earliest Roman calendar, the new year was based on the consular year. It was linked to the dates when Roman consuls took office at different times. The Julian calendar was a refinement of the Roman calendar and was attributed to Julius Caesar. So, New Year's Day brings an end to all these holiday traditions, and they bring us to a time where we can see where there's many, many traditions coming together at this time of year. And I find it fascinating. I find it interesting that so many people from different walks of life, from all around the world, from India to Mexico, to the Inuits in Alaska, to South America, to Africa, are all bringing together at this time of year in the Mideast different faith traditions and faith celebrations. And so I don't see any questions here. I only hear about, from my friend Mick wants to know how I'm doing, and I'm doing pretty good. So I'm going to leave you with that tonight. I'm going to leave you that. So when you're celebrating your faith tradition this holiday season, think about other people and think about the richness of the diversity of this planet and the diversity of this country and the different faith traditions that are being celebrated this time of year. And so with that, I'm going to end the show. I'm going to send good juju and healing energy to my friend who's sick tonight, Teresa Johnson, and hope that she feels better. And to my friend Mick, I always am happy to hear from him. And anybody else that's watching the show that didn't choose to say anything. So with that, thank you, and I wish you all a happy holiday season. Thank you. Bye-bye.